Yo, probably the first time you hear me talk, but it's me, Miguel Kiss. I figure I would be talking because I don't do that much on the channel. So a few days ago, I asked you guys to give me questions, or any messages you want to send to me, and my mods, Exactions 0 and Exactions Kiwami. It will be quite a long video compared to my usual stuff, because we got a lot of questions here. So let's get to it. Is it possible to make a co-op mod for Dragon Age and Yakuzas? I would love to have Kiwami 2 co-op someday. Well, first of all, I'm not actually the guy who made the co-op mods. That's Gyro. And secondly, I feel like he's a well-known figure in the community, so I don't know how you're mistaking him. But I'm gonna leave the link to his channel down in my description on this video, so you can check them out. What do you think is the most fun version of your mod? Like which Dragon of Dojima version, and if you use Brawler or Agent? It's kind of a hard question to be honest, but if I have to choose, it would probably be the 88 Dragon with Brawler. Peak mod, thank you. Combat was weird at first, but I got used to it and got addicted low-key. However, I have no clue what you fed Nishiki because I was getting jumped on Ultimate Battle 5. Oh boy. Yeah, I remember buffing the shit out of Nishiki because, well, he's a final boss, and I feel like he deserves some sort of last fight moment kind of thing. And me giving him the Iron Fist counter was sort of a reference to Zero because this is more like me using unused content, like the cut moves from his moveset, but I do feel like they fit Nishiki in a way because for me I feel like Nishiki would do basically anything to defeat his opponent, so him copying moves from Sarah, who he killed, Kashiwagi, who probably taught him, and Kiryu, specifically the Iron Fist counter in Zero that Kiryu used, definitely made the fight more difficult and challenging because he's the final boss. Of course it was a great experience with this peak mod. It made me feel like I played the game for the first time. Aw, that's great to hear. I'm glad to know that there are some people who really like replaying Kiwami 1 because of this mod. That's what's kind of always been a goal for me, having people replaying the game but making it feel like a different experience. I'm glad I managed to do that because there was a lot of changes made to the combat and the game and the boss fights, even the music, so yeah. Howdy! Yo, I first saw the mod trailer with Ichiban and the Infinite Wealth model and I knew I had to play it from the get-go. I haven't had the time to play the remastered version of Kiwami nor the mod yet, but I have played the base version of the mod on normal Kiwami. When it came to porting over Agent style, was it because you were tired of normal Brawler from Zero? Or because you thought it was really good in Lad Gaiden? Thank you for making a great mod for a great game. Well, first of all, thank you for the comment, I appreciate it. But to answer your questions, no, I wasn't tired of Brawler in Zero. It was actually my favorite style there. For Kiwami 1, I feel like it's a bit redundant to have Brawler since you already have Dragon, and in the first Yakuza game back in PS2 era you only get one style and it was Dragon. So I thought instead of doing the same thing I did in Exaction 0, I wanted to try out a new style, which was Agent at the time when it came out, and I thought it would be a good idea to take a style that was widely considered bad in the community, see if it works in the old engine. Do you plan to release Exaction Kiwami bundle with Gyro's future Kiwami co-op, just like you did with Zero Exactions and Zero co-op? Yes, but there are two different mods, and the co-op mod is being worked on by Gyro, so I don't have a say on when exactly it will come out, but when it does come out, expect me to release a patch or an update, and I'll make sure both mods are compatible, because they're fun. Make the game real fun. Do got one question though. Why replace Brawler and not Rush style? It's been a curiosity for a while. Well, Rush style has always been my favorite style in Kiwami 1, and I feel like I could not make a better style than what RGG has made. So for Rush I could only add to the style, which I did. but not replace it completely, because what am I gonna replace it with? Freaking Boxer from Lost Judgment? But for Brawler, I feel like I could work with that style better, because both Brawler and Agent share the same color, which is blue, though I did change it to cyan for Brawler in my mod. So there you go. I just want to say that the mod is peak. A lot of hard work clearly went into it, and it shows. As for my question, I would like to know if you plan on adding stuff from the Fist of the North Star game sometime in the future. I think I already add them. The Tick Bomb Agent Gadget, whatever you call them, was a nod to Fist of the North Star's hidden pressure point mechanic. What it means that I literally used the exact same animation from that game, but I gave it a bit of an agent flair. Hello, phenomenal mod, especially with this latest update. I was wondering if you could shed light on some design philosophies you had during development. For example, how much of the visual effects you wanted to port over from modern Dragon Engine games, and what made you choose the Dragon Dojima Kiwami style initially for the mod, as well as Agent replacing Brawler? Thanks. For the visual effects, I definitely wanted to recreate them one-to-one from Dragon Engine games, but since these two engines are very different from one another, it's just impossible to recreate every single effects. And after that, I tried to personalize them and design them in a way that they can fit into the game. As for why I chose Kiwami 3's Dragon of Dojima Kiwami, god that's an awful name, and Agent replacing Brawler is because, like I said before, I wanted to try out new things and I want to see if these movesets can work in the old engines. And as to whether or not I've succeeded, I can't tell right now. That's on you guys, so yeah. Do you add other boss fight in the future? No. Do you plan to add any Kurohyo OSTs to the mod in the future? I've already done that, and you can look up the music changes in the mods page. Hello, I'm not very good at English, so I apologize if some part of this message are difficult to understand. All good, it's all good. This is my first time trying Exactions Kiwami Remastered, and I absolutely love it. I enjoy it so much that I've been playing it over and over again. Thank you. I do have a question though. On the mod downloads page, there seems to be more than one version available. Is there any difference between them, or are they basically the same? Also, would it be possible for you to make Majima playable in this version someday? If not, that's completely fine. Exactions Kiwami Remastered is already giving me a lot of fun. In fact, before finding your mod, I was considering buying another game key just to use a similar mod. Thank you so much for bringing this project to the 2025 version of the game. Overall, I haven't experienced any problems with the mod. I spent around an hour testing it before, and today I've already played for several more hours without any issue. I also really respect your skill as a mod creator. The amount of work and effort that must have gone into making a mod of this quality is impressive. One last question regarding the other character mods. Are they mostly the same, or are there significant differences between them? Do the playable characters use movesets that already exist in the game, or does each download have unique features and attacks? Sorry if these questions are confusing. As mentioned before, I'm not very good with languages. Thank you again for your amazing work. So this is something I've already explained in the mods page, and I'll try my best to explain it here too. So there are 6 versions of the mod, and depending on which version you choose, Kiro will have 4 styles out of 5, that being Agent, Brawler, Rush, Beast, and Dragon. For Dragon, there are 3 versions. Dragon Kiwami, which is the Kiwami 3's Dragon of Dojima Kiwami style. I'm sorry if that's confusing, that's literally how it's named. Dragon of Dojima, which is the Dragon Engine style. Dragon 88, which is the old engine Dragon style. For the character mods, they are just outfits, like cosmetic changes. They won't affect how you play the mod or the game. So yeah. Okay, so for this next part, it's gonna get a bit technical, so feel free to use the chapter feature down below to skip ahead. What's some of the hardest parts about making the mods? And what would you say was the hardest, most time-consuming aspect of the mod's creation? For Exaction 0, I would say learning how modding works, learning how to deal with these files, and how heat actions work, and how QTEs work, all that is the hardest part. Since I had to learn everything from scratch, it was definitely challenging. As for the most time consuming thing I had to do, it was definitely setting up QTEs, dynamic intros, and heat actions and making sure they work properly. Say I want to replace Awano's wall crushing QTE with Shioya's from Judgment. Without proper knowledge, I would have to first load a save, then talk to Nishiki, go through the entire long battle as Kiryu, and then switch to Majima, go through the entire long battle with Majima, you know the drill, and then get to the Wano. Not to mention, since this is old engine, you don't get to skip most of the dialogue. And at this point, I really wish I was modding Dragon Engine. But you can tell each attempt took like 10 minutes to do, and it's really time consuming. And not to mention, you don't even know if your QTE is gonna work or not, because it could just crash, it could just soft lock your game, it could be 2 feet deep in the ground and you have to edit the coordinates to be 2 feet higher. There's a lot of things when it comes to setting up QTEs, and thank God I learned how to properly set them up beforehand. Which brings me to Exactions Kiwami. The hardest part of the mod was definitely managing the entire project. So that includes redesigning the entire combat system, polishing every single aspect, and optimizing the mod as a whole, which I got help from Gyro, and he gave me a few tips and tricks here and there, very friendly reminders. For the most time consuming part of making the mod, it was the visual effects. 3 words, PIB. Actually that's 1 word, pip. But you know, I had to port every single pip from Dragon Engine game, and there are around 1,000 of them, and each one took me around 3 minutes to perfect. And this is not mentioning the fact that I had to learn about the format in the first place, which I definitely learned a lot about. When will Yakuza Kiwami Exaction Remastered Kiwami Gaiden re-release? Maybe 6 months? I don't know. It might take me around 6 or 7. Would you ever consider adding other playable characters, like Mine or Nishiki perhaps? I don't think it's a good idea, because I would have to balance the whole game around 1 or 2 movesets that were given to Nishiki or Mine. To make a moveset that was clearly designed for a boss, playable for players, it would require a lot of planning and knowledge, which, to be honest, I'm not really good at. So, no. Why did you originally release the mod with only the Kiwami 3 Dragon of Dojima style available? I've never really heard anyone say anything positive about the Kiwami 3 version of Dragon of Dojima style, and so I was really curious on why you originally released one of the most hyped mods in the community with a pretty contentious version of Kiryu's Dragon style. I think Dragon Dojima's Kiwami is very cool in concept but poor in execution. Exactions version is really good in my opinion. Basically what he said, but for me, I feel like it doesn't really matter what style of Dragon of Dojima you use. It really just comes down to what knockdown effects and heat reactions those moves have. And it's not like a copy Kiwami 3's Dragon of Dojima style 1-for-1. I've only changed the first 3 rush combo to use the Dragon Engine version, and that was apparently enough for people to assume that I was porting that terrible style from K3. But hey, people have preferences, and that's why I made 2 other versions of the Dragon style they can choose from. Can there be more tools like in Gaiden, Spider, etc.? Well, no, that would be asking for too much. The only reason I was able to do the Serpent gadget in the game was because it was just a pair of shoes, and I could just add the fire effects that come out of them. Furthermore, it's just a set of animations and it doesn't require complex coding. Is it possible to bring back Dragon Spirit, Yakuza 5 X-Heat, to 88 Dragon? It's specifically made for Yakuza 5 and it's hard-coded, so no. Peak mod, question, can you make the juggle more longer in the next update? Well, first of all, I lowered it deliberately because it was too abusable as a mechanic. Second of all, having a higher count for juggles would make the game crash more often, which I tend to avoid. I've already commented on the mod page, but I absolutely adore this mod. It feels balanced, fun, and most importantly, well thought out. I love the way the styles in the standard version of the mod balance each other out. I have already spent hundreds of hours on Vanilla K1, and I'm on my way of spending hundreds on this mod too, finding new tech and just freestyling with random fights because it feels great to manage crowds with this mod. However, I do have one question. How would you feel about making Brawler's Snatching Strike the universal combo starter resetting tool by making it like Yakuza 0 where you can hit the recipient by the end of it? I think it would make a Brawler replacing Agent less of a downgrade and more of a side grade, because the biggest thing you lose when swapping to Brawler is just no Agent finishing holds, so some bosses will stay without juggles, and when you do get a juggle, it might end up being a really short one depending on the starter used. Though maybe there are other moves that work as universal knockdowns, juggle combo, starter, and I just don't know any of those. Lol. Thank you for the comment on the mod page. I'm really glad you're enjoying the mod a lot. But for the questions, I'll have to say I don't think I can, because I've always intended for both styles to play very much differently from each other. If I add a juggle starter for Brawler, it would undo the balance I've set for both styles, and it would just be like Agent again, with slightly different flavors. Besides, there is a way to juggle bosses without Agent Brawler, and it's mentioned in the skill tree. I'm not gonna say which skill it is, so you gotta have to look it up. I don't have an immediate question, but I want to take this opportunity to thank you for making such a great mod. Agent is 1000 times more fun to use than in Gaiden, and the additional changes for each styles are very fun. My only nitpick is that Dragon uses Dragon Engine Rush combo, but I think that got addressed it in your latest update, and I still haven't got a chance to try it out. Also, out of curiosity, you managed to implement 7 fighting styles at once for Majima in Exactions 0. Was it not possible to be done in Kiwami 1? To answer your questions, it's because I chose quality over quantity, and that it is not possible to do such thing in Kiwami 1, at least not the remaster version. Since this is an old engine game, there are a set amount of moves or animations loaded in a fight, and if you go over that limit, the game will crash, and I had to delete so many animations just to get the remastered version working. You could say, why not just make 2 versions of the mod then? I can't have 2 different versions of the mod that people can just miss out on if they have one version of the game over the other. Furthermore, it's just a headache. It's just a headache managing all of these styles at once. All 8 of them would definitely make the mod feel like a bloated moveset mod, with 0 correlations between styles and 0 quality. I am basically describing Exaction 0, but you get what I mean. I love the mod, but I wish there were more heat actions. On that I agree with you. That's understandable coming from Exaction 0, which had a lot of heat actions, but I wanted to focus more on the quality, like I said before, and I feel like they were more because you were also controlling Majima. I love the mod, but I'm really disappointed we didn't get any new cutscenes like we did with the trailer of Kiryu and Ichiban talking, then the Nishiki showing up. I understand that the dialogue is non-existent for the new cutscenes, but it still sucks. Also, I really loved the Majima singing the Love the One I Love song in one of your videos, and I was really looking forward to playing that song in the karaoke, only to find out that it's non-existent. Other than that, the mod is peak. I just wish we could play as Nishiki too. No one has ever made a playable Nishiki mod in the history of Yakuza modding that would actually well made and is satisfying. I feel like it would be really cool if you added Nishiki at least as a playable character in one of the climax battles if it's possible. I understand it's more of a feedback than a question, but thanks for reading my feedbacks anyway. No, so good. I understand where the feedback's coming from. And I apologize for the confusion that maybe you thought I would add new scenes and new karaoke songs to the mod, which is possible. It's just that you would need to be an RGG developer to do that. I'm not that well versed in karaoke modding, and the videos that I've made were just passion projects that I do alongside developing the actual mod itself. Maybe one day Yakuza modding scenes get so big that people can just add new scenes to the game, which I don't think it will happen anytime soon, so don't get your hopes up. Cheeseburger or shawama? Shamwama.
Shaura
Yup. Best the Kiryu and Date versus Street Gangsters intro might need to replace something fit, then a final still keeps same from Infinite Wealth. Well, you from Vietnam? Don't I sound like one? Well, that was a lot of questions, and I wasn't expecting them to be so many. But either way, I was very glad because it shows that you guys are very curious about the mod making process and all that. And now we're very happy. And you might have noticed, or at least some of you, that I have intentionally left out some questions. You may or may not have realized they are mostly about future projects and what I'm gonna do after making these mods, or at least after I've done bug fixing everything. I just want to say that I appreciate all of your support, all of the attention you've given to this project, and I hope that this video has answered some of your questions regarding the mod. And I hope you all enjoy the mods, because that's gonna be the last one you'll be getting from me. And unlike the post I made a while back before releasing Exactions Kiwami, I'm afraid that this isn't a lie that I can afford. Like many of us, I got into the Yakuza series with Yakuza 0 on PC. And like most of us, I immediately fell in love with the series and characters, and that's nothing to scoff at. And modding has always been a way for me to appreciate these games, especially for 0 and Kiwami 1. But it's also wise to know when to stop. As you can probably tell, modding has taken the majority of the playtime, but the reality is that I've lost feelings for modding these games, and I feel like I've learned everything I want to learn about modding Yakuza games. I think I always wanted to quit since July of the last year. Halfway through making Exactions Kiwami, I just realized that I don't want to spend all of my time modding. But at the same time, I wasn't really satisfied with how Exaction 0 turned out. I felt like I could do so much more with what I've learned. So I wanted to keep going. So I kept going since I really wanted Exactions Kiwami to be something I can be proud of. So I went all in on my ideas, and I think that's pretty much what killed it. Don't get me wrong, I do want to update Exaction 0. But tell me, how long do you think it would take for me to redo everything and polish the mod to a level that Exactions Kiwami has reached? I may have ported the mod over the remastered version, but that alone took me 2 months, and not to mention a lot of help from many other people. It would be hard to explain why something sounds so simple as porting the mod over the same game that was re-released recently can be so difficult, so I'll just say it like this. You are free to use whatever you want from Exactions 0 and Exactions Kiwami to make your own mod for these games. I have credited all the tools I've used on the mod page, and I will also leave a link for the Yakuza modding community Discord channel if you want to learn how to mod these games. All I ask is that you are content with what you make and that you credit people where it's due. I can hardly call myself a modder anymore, and I sincerely doubt that I'll ever return to modding again. So please don't expect me to help you with any of the modding related questions, because I'm not going to be there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you expected more. I'm really sorry if this is not what you want to hear right after I release the mod. This part of the video is just what I've been always wanting to say for about a year now. So it's been a long time. And believe me, I wasn't very happy about it either. You know what? Let's end it on a positive note. I really love interacting with people on YouTube and reading comments about my videos, even if not all of them are modding related. Like the karaoke cinematics, for example, I genuinely had a better time making those than the ones I made about a mod. And I appreciate all of your support that you all have given me, So I want to keep going with the channel. Of course, I don't expect anybody to keep following me, since this channel has always been focused on modding content. I just think that I can appreciate these games in other ways. Modding is modding is just isn't it for me, and I kind of just want to play video games normally and not having to worry about modding or any of that stuff. Just enjoy the game as they are, and I hope that you will care to join me because I will have to think a lot about what I want to do and what I have to do. Only those who recognize their own vices are able to control them within others. Come walk with me down the road.